Hey everybody, this is Kenny C from Triple Threat Wrestling Radio, and I'm happy to be joined with an international star all the way from Australia, Kelly Skater. She's joining me right now. Hello.
G'day, how's it going?
I'm doing real good, and thank you so much for taking the time and doing this interview.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me and for staying up so late.
Hey, it's all good. Let's go ahead and get started. How did you get started in the wrestling business?
I've loved wrestling since I was a little kid. I first watched it with my cousin when I was 9 or 10, and that's when I pretty much said to my teacher, "I'm going to be a wrestler when I'm older." So I actually randomly met another Australian women's wrestler when I was 18, and she told me about a training centre that was down the road from my house, maybe half an hour. And when I hit 19, I decided to, sign up and start training.
So, when you told your teacher that, what was his or her reaction?
That pretty much laughed at me. I was actually a really small kid. I was very scrawny, pretty short. I played a lot of sport, but still, a very small-looking girl they didn't think would ever be a wrestler. But they're pretty happy for me now. But yeah, at the time it was a bit of laughter.
I'm sure every now and then you go to that same teacher and say, "See, I told you so."
Yeah, when I saw them for the first time in a long time, I said to them, "Oh, guess what I'm up to now?" And they got a pretty big kick out of it, actually. They thought it was pretty good.
Well, it's good for them to be good about it. Uh, so, do you remember the first wrestling match you ever had?
First match. The first match was a battle royale, and then after that, it was a trios match. Me, Vina Lopka, and Candy Girl, neither of who wrestle anymore. One's had a kid and one's quit wrestling. Versus uh, Eden, Giselle Gunn, and Vixen. And two of the girls from the other team have actually left and had kids as well. So yeah, it's been interesting who's stayed around and who's left.
Who do you consider as influences in your wrestling career?
Um, I've always liked Joshi wrestling. My favorite wrestler is Akira Hokuto from Japan, and as far as a watching influence, I've always liked her and Bull Nakano, Chigusa Nagayo, people like that. I also started watching Shima when I first started wrestling, and girls like Sarah and Mercedes, people like that. But as a personal influence of someone who I've looked up to a lot, and kind of grown into wrestling around would be Madison Eagles.
How would you describe your wrestling star?
I think I'm a bit of a mixed bag, really. I have a lot. Sometimes I do a lot of comedy wrestling. Uh, a lot of sometimes I do some brawling, technical work. I can high fly if need be. I like to mix it up a little bit, keep it interesting. It really depends on where I am as well.
There's
I
a
guess technical and brawling is probably the best description.
there's a website that you are part of. It's called Slamming Ladies, and this
Ah, yep.
month is a very special month for them. It's their 8-year anniversary. You had a chance to compete with some of the top female wrestlers in the world.
Yes.
Uh, what was it like working there, and do you have any favorite moments and memories there?
Um, I love the person that runs Slam and Ladies, Lexi. I love like a mum. She is fantastic. She's been so kind to me and the other Australians. And uh, performing with them has given me an opportunity to wrestle some brilliant people like Saraya Knight, which I had a blast. My favorite match there would have had to have been me versus Madison versus Rain, which was just so much fun. And they're also two people who I not only respect but love, and every time I go there I have a really good time. So my favorite memory, I guess, is just hanging out with the girls and being able to hang out with Lexi and her baby girl.
What's the wrestling scene like out there in Australia?
It's a smaller scene than other places I've wrestled in, but just like America, you've got your bigger promotions and your smaller promotions, and your better wrestlers and your not as good wrestlers. Um, there's a couple of promotions that the boys and girls, put a lot of effort into what they do and put a lot of pride into it, and they're the promotions I'm happy to be working with. And I guess Australia's wrestling culture is probably closest to an American or a Canadian wrestling culture, where it's kind of more of a niche product. And the fans are very, very similar as well, because, most Australian wrestling fans have grown up with WWE.
In what world do you like, the baby face or the heel?
I enjoy both for different reasons. Uh, More people know me as a heel because that's what I have been in most places in America and in Canada and across half of Australia. But I am a face in Japan and other places in Australia. And in Japan, it's really, really fun to be a face because they get really into my gimmick. They will cheer big for the protein and whatnot. And it's just enjoyable. But there's just something that is just so, I don't know, fun or, releasing aggression or whatnot as being a heel and just being a jerk and having fun with it, doing stuff you wouldn't normally do. Because there's no way I would go on the street and say some of the horrible things I've said to opponents as, myself usually. Just having a bit of fun with being a jerk once in a while is kind of fun.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, who do you consider your favorite wrestlers that you have the chance to work with? It could be out here in Australia, it could be in America, or anyone in particular.
Okay, that's really difficult because there's so many people I've enjoyed working with. In Australia, I would have to say the PWWA girls, the girls like Madison, Jessie, and Evie lately I've been really enjoying working with. She's a New Zealander. Overseas, I really enjoyed working Hiroyo Matsumoto because we had a bit of fun. Um, Kana was a really good match. Definitely the hardest I've ever been hit in my life, but really good. Awesome Kong, Mercedes, and from Canada, Casey Spinelli. I had a surprisingly fun match with her.
And is there anyone out there that you haven't worked with but would like to work with someday?
There's plenty of girls I haven't wrestled that I'd really like to. I would like a one-on-one match with Tomoka Nakagawa, who's actually my tag partner, but I think a match against her would be pretty entertaining. I would like to wrestle Leva Bates in front of a live crowd, just for the utter shenanigans. Uh, I would really, really like to wrestle Daisy Hayes if she wasn't retired, Nanae Takahashi. There's just a huge list, to be honest.
And
I'd like to tag, sorry, I'd like to tag up a lot more with Tomoka and maybe take on some top tag team contenders.
all right, and my next question is: considering you travel all over the world, what are some areas that you haven't had a chance to visit but would like to someday?
I'd like to go to Thailand and just kind of watch the Muay Thai kickboxing and just visit some of their culture and whatnot. I'd like to go to Ireland just because it looks beautiful from pictures I've seen. Where else? England, definitely. A lot of my family background comes from the England, Scotland, Ireland area, whatnot. Plus, I want to visit the Knights and just see what craziness they get up to in their own country. Yeah, they're probably the main ones.
And what are some goals you like to set for yourself going forward?
I would like to go back to Japan and continue what I started this year and just try to make a name for myself in the Joshi scene over there and become very settled. I would eventually like to live over in Japan and wrestle. That would be pretty much my dream job. And I don't know so much about TNA or WWE, but you wouldn't say no to a contract, I don't think. But it's not something I'm actively working towards, if that makes sense.
Understandable, understandable. Some people want to go there, some people want to go different routes, and I guess what it boils down to, just because you don't necessarily make it to the big leagues doesn't make, I guess, fans think little of you. People know who you are and what you're capable of and what you accomplish, and that's just what it boils down to.
Yeah, everyone has, their own goals and their own dreams in wrestling, and while, WWE would be a fantastic platform and you'd be crazy to, turn it down without thinking about it, but in Japan there's also a very big scene as well, and I just love Japanese wrestling. I love their culture, and I was so happy over there. That's my main focus at this current stage. How might I feel in a year's time? I don't know. Maybe I'll feel differently, but I know some of the girls who aspire to either make it big in Japan or Mexico or the UK. Everyone's goal's different.
As you mentioned, you've wrestled all over the world, and you have to wrestle with people with different languages. Let me ask you this: how do you manage to pull that off, considering you wrestle against people that may not necessarily speak English or any other languages out there?
It's difficult. When you first wrestle people who come from overseas, it can be really hard. But you get used to it, and body language and wrestling words and the feel of a match as well, it's doable. It's difficult, but once you get used to it, it's not, that much different. I think it's more people freak out their first, 2 or 3 matches against people from Japan or Montreal and that, because, oh no, what about if I can't communicate? But you learn little ways to communicate. Mio Shirai is actually one of the easiest people who don't speak English to understand ever. She's phenomenal at communicating with her body language and just, her actions. So I think she proves that you don't need to speak someone's language to be able to wrestle with them. It's not too big a deal.
I guess what it boils down to is not like wrestlers have a time to talk to one another anyway when they are in the ring performing. You just have to. It's just one of those things that you just go with the flow, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. You learn to read people's body language. And body language is the same no matter what country you're in.
And how can people learn more from you, social media wise? Go ahead and promote your Facebook and Twitter and any other links that people need to know.
Well, I do have a Facebook and Twitter. I'm a lot more active on my Twitter, though, to be honest. My at is RateTank. And I'm pretty good with replying to people. I mean, there's times, obviously, where I can't at the time, but most of the time I'll try to get back to people if it's a, legitimate question and whatnot. And if you hit me up on Facebook, I will get back to you, but it'll probably be pretty delayed.
Alright, so everybody check out Kelly Skater, especially if you're in the Australia area. I've watched your matches at least through YouTube, and I have to say, you are without a doubt one of the best female wrestlers internationally, and sky's the limit for you. And hopefully you'll come back here in America sometime.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I do visit America every 6 months usually for Shimmer Women Athletes. And you can also catch me around a couple of other promotions across the East Coast.
Alright, so all I know for sure is us Americans definitely await you when you come back. No
Thank
doubt
you
about
very
it.
much.
So, I'm guessing my last question for you is if you can give anyone advice on anyone who wants to pursue wrestling, that wants to be a professional wrestler, what would it be?
Research. Make sure you research a reputable place to train, not just somewhere that will just take your money and just encourage you to impersonate what you see off TV. And be prepared for the lifestyle. You know, you need to hit the gym, you need to eat semi-decently at least. You need to be prepared that if you're going to become a serious wrestler, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. You're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices and you're going to be in pain. But if you're serious about it, and do not get involved unless you're serious, because it's just not going to be worth it, research and find a good school.
And before I let you go, Kelly, before we end this interview, I ask all guests to do this. All you have to do is say your name. And right after you say your name, you say you are listening to Triple Threat Wrestling Radio. That's
You're
simple.
listening to Triple Threat Wrestling Radio.
Thank you so much for your time, Kelly. Best of success
Cheers, mate.
goes out to you. Do you have any final words and shout outs?
I'd just like to say PWWA will be running their next show on October 6th. So if you're in the Sydney area, come check us out. And NHPW will be running shows in Perth and Fremantle on the 30th of August and the 1st of September. And you can find both promotions on Facebook. So yeah, just check them out. Cheers, guys.
Can I point something out? Australian women do have indeed great accents. And
Yeah, we do have pretty strong accents. I've actually noticed that after spending a lot of time overseas. When you run into another Australian, you're like, whoa, do we actually sound like that? It's very confusing.
it's so elegant. So elegant. I guess
Thank
that's.
you.
Well, that will do it. And thank you everyone for listening. Australia and all the way to the U.S. This is Kenny C signing out. And it was an honor to be joined with Kelly Skater.
Thanks for having me. See ya.
All right. And this will conclude the interview.